Enrique Torres, thank you so much for coming on the documentary, Can ODR Change the World? The Story and Promise of Online Dispute Resolution. And so you and I are both from our respective law firms in Texas. However, we've met here in Chicago, Illinois, in the 2026 ABA Tech Show, the legal tech show where people come together and to this place where we just talk about technology and the law, but also a lot of times things that are tangential to the law that touch the law, like mediation and mediators. And so, first off, can you briefly tell us a little bit about yourself? Just because, I think your background speaks a lot to what you have to say. So, a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I've been practicing law in Harris County, primarily Houston, Texas, as you well know, for the last 22 years approximately. I've been licensed since 2004. I'm board certified in family law, and I was a former associate judge in the 507 District Court. So my focus is primarily family cases and any derivative cases that deal with family type cases like real property cases or criminal cases. I've done a couple of grand jury type packets and things of that sort. But that's a little bit about my background, and currently I have been very involved in technology and trying to, within the confines of my practice, employ technology that. And a little bit of background on that. I've been using technology in the courtroom for, I don't know, the last 7 or 8 years. I've been using Westlaw and Lexis for that period of time. Before that, I relied a lot on the O'Connor's books, but then I got very into the legal research, into the deep legal research using Lexis and Westlaw, and they have, I mean, leaps and bounds to what they were.
Yeah.
So just my passion for technology has brought me to this conference. I've been doing Python coding now for about a year. I'm learning Rust at this time, and I'm developing in-house applications that are helping me become effective in my litigation practice and trial practice and to serve my clients.
Awesome. Well, you said a lot, but this is your first time coming here, right?
My first time to the ABA Technology Conference, yes, sir.
Yes. And so let's talk about ODR, online resolution. You obviously are a mediator as well, and that is a critical thing here. And so, being a mediator, what have you seen in the evolution of mediation and technology? We all used to do mediation just in person, but then COVID happened, and all of a sudden we're doing it virtually now. But if you could give somebody a 1 minute history of what happened to the mediation world with technology, what would you say?
Sure. So, you know, before COVID, mediating was done in person. Going to court obviously was done in person. And I was kind of reluctant. I was one of the people that was a little reluctant at the very beginning. I wanted to have all my hearings in person. I wanted to have my mediations in person. And then slowly but surely, it started making sense. The technology made sense. Doing it on Zoom or whatever type of platform people were using, on Teams, I believe that
Yep.
a lot of people use as well. All of a sudden, it became more convenient. It became more efficient. And even when I became a judge, it was easier for me to conduct hearings and to move a lot of cases by the use of this technology, the Zoom technology. So as a mediator now, when I mediate cases, if there's some reason, some overarching reason why it needs to be in person, I like to do it on Zoom because I believe it's more efficient. I think and what I mean by efficient is there's a lot of time lost in the travel to the location and having to do kind of some preliminaries and setting up the kind of the rooms and just doing different things. And then you're not in a digital space where you can easily exchange thoughts, ideas, and information. And I think that's what's powerful about doing it online, is being able to transmit information. Within seconds, I can send the other lawyer information. They can send me information. The clients can send information. So even when I conduct mediations not as a mediator, but as a litigant, I'm representing a litigant.
Yeah.
It's a lot more convenient for me because I'm able to capture the information and save it and preserve it for, use, and it's not automatically gone. Now, you have to keep in mind that most of the information that is exchanged, or some of the communications that are exchanged, are confidential, so they have to be destroyed at the end of the mediation, but pursuant to Texas law. But it does make it so much more convenient to do it online because of that, having the ability to exchange information readily.
Exactly. So when you have been here, I think you and I have both seen different companies that cater not just to lawyers, but um, mediators. What impression has that made on you? Yeah, part of that.
You know, before I came to this conference, I wasn't very privy to that type of a program. And obviously, I understand, that that exists as a product, and it has opened my eyes, and the possibilities are endless. I was even asking my own Chat GPT about it here a short while ago. I mean, the good thing about having technology and resources like these agents like ChatGPT and Claude is that you can brainstorm ideas and it leads to, to fruit. It gives you just
Inspiration.
it sparks ideas.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of things in law school. It reminded me of things that, ideas and concepts that we are supposed to use in negotiations that one may not really think about. And it just kind of helps you kind of foster the creative juices to try to enter into negotiations and to try to reach agreements between the parties. And I think I think it's a great idea. The way that artificial intelligence can help a mediator orchestrate and manage the mediation and try to reach agreements that may not have been available in the past
Yeah.
because, you run out of time, and what AI can do within a couple of seconds and fostering a laundry list of ideas that you can run through, that's a great help instead of the mediator having to sit there without the aid of AI and trying to come up with those ideas on his own. It would take a lot longer and it would take away from the
Yeah,
mediation.
it increases the possibilities of ways a case could settle, right? It multiplies it, and that's one thing I've noticed. I think before we were recording, I mentioned that this could be called an AI conference, just because every single product that's been announced has artificial intelligence built in somehow. So, and even the ODR platforms that we've been seeing, the ones catering just to mediators, it's big time focus onto um, artificial intelligence. So, a question I ask people whenever we talk about AI in ODR is, does any of it scare you? Are there any downsides you think? Are there any concerns you have? Things that leave you, you know, just shaking your head, wondering where is that taking us? I know you're being put on the spot. Maybe you haven't had time to think about it, but we have lots of rules with mediation, confidentiality, security, and all this stuff. But now when we're introducing this uh, other entity into the discussion, does any of that give you concern or pause?
So are you speaking just generally about AI, or are you talking about it in the confines of the mediation? No, well, just to answer the overall thing. No, it doesn't scare me at all. At all. I like,
Yeah.
as far as just overall, I think AI is the best thing. I think it's our move forward. I can't wait for
To
the
get
things that
better?
come.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean the whole world is going to improve. This is a new industrial revolution. It's
Yeah.
the artificial intelligence revolution. An AI can be trained in such a way that it can pick up on sentiment. It can pick up on inflection. It can actually see images. You've got visual models now that just in the last 90 days, 60 days since November, you've got the Chinese models, you got the mini maxes coming out, you got the DeepSeeks coming out. You've got different models where the visual analysis that's happening and the video analysis is just amazing. Kilo is coming out, with their, so I guess what I'm trying to say is it doesn't just stop on the information. Like, the AI can be trained to pick up on different things, people's attitudes. If somebody is speaking in a negative way, like one of the parties, and if you're talking about an agent that's going to follow around the mediator as if it's the mediator, other than talking to the parties, which you probably can train it to do too and ask its own questions, but you can actually have it follow the mediator. It's receiving and ingesting all of the communications between the parties and the mediator and the lawyers, or let's say there are no lawyers, but the pro se parties. And, it ingests all the documents, everything that was done, confidentiality, and it understands that there's a certain line that can't be crossed. So my take on using artificial intelligence in mediation type settings and using that type of a tool is first of all, I'm a fan of it. I do understand that there are concerns about, the information, the confidentiality, but all that can be taken care of. All of that can be, segmented. The artificial intelligence agent that's actually aiding the mediator can actually, there's different ways to orchestrate that. And with, just thinking out loud based on the Python projects that I've been kind of creating, I mean, you can create different agents. You can create an agent for one party, you can create an agent for another party that's running in parallel, and they join to a main agent that reports that main agent, and that main agent is maybe going into the rooms with the actual mediator and getting and ingesting all of the language that's being exchanged. And again, if you're doing this in a forum where you're doing it online, language is no longer an issue. So if you've got litigants that are speaking Spanish and the mediator speaks only English, all of a sudden you've got a situation now where it's all translated automatically. Um, so I think that type of processing and just having real-time information, and then the artificial intelligence being able to give the mediator pointers or ideas or just a checklist of, just kind of a brainstorm of what type of, you know, uh, agreements, not necessarily what agreements can be reached, but just what type of weaknesses are in the case, what type of strengths are in the case, and just an additional, someone else to talk to about it. So, for example, when I use artificial intelligence in my practice, it's a soundboard.
Yep.
I go to it and I ask it questions and it gives me ideas. And that's what you want to do, is you want to generate ideas. You're not substituting the mediator. You need that human element. You need the person that's orchestrating. You're never going to take away the expertise of the mediator. But what you're doing is you're enhancing the mediator by saying, hey, the AI is saying, hey, look at this, look at that. This is a strength. This is a weakness. This is what was said in that other room. The mediator, being human, sometimes we don't capture everything. We don't remember everything. And the AI may pick up on something that may be critical or maybe very valuable, something that maybe we're not listening to. And it's just there as extra support and to help. Maybe we are picking up on it as mediators. But again, you have that extra layer. You have that agent that's kind of in the background, watching your back, watching the mediation, and just kind of giving you a report as to what it believes, the strengths, weaknesses, strategically, legally, what comes into play. And it all depends on how complicated or how complex of an agent you want. You might want to give the agent, in my situation, for example, the Texas Family Code and CLE articles on mediation, and just kind of like, what are the parameters of it? Because if you're training these agents to do specific tasks and roles, you want them to be as fine-tuned, and you want as much reinforcement learning as possible so that these agents are doing the best job that they possibly can.
Yes. So when you imagine what's possible, being somebody who has delved so deep into this as you, when you imagine what's possible in 5 to 10 years, what do you think might be able to be done with some of these LLMs and mediation?
So, we're talking about it right now as possibilities and like, um, kind of an abstract, what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. Somebody earlier, in one of the speakers also said, I don't know what's going to happen in 50 years.
Yeah.
What I believe in my heart is that this is going to be a moot point, because there's going to be LLMs everywhere. There's going to be agents everywhere. So this idea that you're going to have some artificial intelligence or some program that's going to be following somebody in a mediation, namely the mediator, and that's going to adhere to all of these standards, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time, how quickly we adopt it. But it's like the iPhone. I mean, nobody understood what the iPhone was until all of a sudden, wow, and now you can't live without the iPhone or an Android or anything else. I mean, we live in a different world. And, I'm aging myself, but, I as a kid, I didn't never had an iPhone. We didn't have iPhones or iPads or anything like that. But now it's a different world. So now with the LLMs, it's going to be out there. Like, these LLMs are going to be everywhere. They're going to be pervasive in society, but they're going to be agents with a task, and they're going to fulfill roles, and they're going to be as complicated as we need them to be, or as simple as we need them to be to fulfill those tasks or those roles. The future, in my opinion, is not the large frontier models. It's going to be the small language models that are bespoke for each individual person. And with the technology that's being created right now, anybody's going to be able to create their own language model to fulfill their own tasks. But when you have specialized agents, and like what's happening now, like in the products that are being geared towards the mediations, you've got to gear those. I mean, those are a little bit more centralized, and those have to have they have to have the architecture to be able to do that. You have to have the architecture to set them up in such a way, and the wrappers to set them up in such a way that they're going to fulfill those tasks. So you have the artificial intelligence, but then you're going to have the code and all of the instructions and all of the prompts and all of the skills that are going to be set up in order for these agents to do their job. So the agent's going to be as strong as the LLM, and you're going to use probably, a frontier LLM, obviously, to use to create these products, but it's going to be the architecture that's going to be the beauty.
Yeah.
That's the beauty. That's the art of creating these agents, is the architecture, is setting up the agency the way you want that agency set up, and especially in these mediations, and teaching it its task, teaching it its role, teaching it what it needs to look for. It's learning and breathing, and you're gonna have to teach it and water it every day.
Yeah. Well, you being somebody who mediates, but also is deeply into the tech components of it all, I think you're the perfect person to be able to speak to this because you can, see how you can address every single part of the mediation practice through the AI tools. You say you're already doing it right now in your own law practice,
Right,
right?
right.
And so every single day, the tools helping with discoveries, helping you with
Sure.
whatever issues that come up. But thank you for it all. Last question, and this is the question I ask everybody whenever we do this for the documentary, and that is, can ODR, can online dispute resolution change the world? And what's your thoughts on that? It's a very broad, esoteric kind of question, but what do you think it's taking us and how is it going to change?
I think so. Yes, of course. I think that any platform that helps people resolve disputes, and especially with the use of artificial intelligence and the use of this technology, I mean, it puts us in a different world. It puts us in a situation where, yes, um, you don't have to have an actual legal dispute in order to resolve issues.
Yep.
You can have a conflict between two people that, may not involve legal theories and may not have damages associated with it, or may not deal with a family type matter, but you'll be able to come to a forum where somebody's going to help you resolve that dispute. Or maybe certain things haven't happened to trigger that hook, or that trigger has not happened where it's become a criminal case or a family law case or some other type of case, but you have the ability to diffuse situations, and using ODR, is obviously going to be a vehicle for that, to be able to help people resolve disputes. So you can talk about it in a broader sense, but anytime that you can bring people to the table and try to get them to resolve their differences without getting into court, or even if they're in court, trying to get them to resolve the issues without having to go back and litigate in court, is obviously a lot better. And with the numbers, I mean, what is it? 90% of the cases get settled, 95% of the cases get settled in court. So it's only that small percentage that actually makes it. So, what you're doing is you are creating a broader platform for people to come together to try to collaborate and try to reach, agreements on things where there are disputes. And I think that that's amazing. And I think that's great. And I think it has a lot of promise, because that, again, just like we're looking at these LLMs, like, what is this? The world is changing. Well, it's the same thing with these platforms. Zoom, who knew what Zoom was before COVID?
Yeah.
I had no clue. I never went to Zoom hearings, but you are following that trend, and you are going to help set up a different world, that world where we're more connected, more, connected to the technology, more able to use the technology, and more able to settle disputes and to do things without having to, limit ourselves based on the past and what we used to do in the past historically. You are embracing the future in essence.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this, delightful conversation on this documentary. Can ODR change the world? Thank you.